If your kid and your neighbor's kid were both drowning in a river, which one would you choose to save? Hold that thought. I got to get back to this in the middle of this video. Republicans using the Bible to justify their hate? That's nothing new. J.D. Vance rewriting scripture in real time to justify deportations and ignore genocide in other countries is peak hate, hypocrisy, and gaslighting. Reading comments from people who say, oh, J.D. is right, while we can read scripture that contradicts his statements is peak ignorance and MAGA logic in this country.
But there's this old school, and I think it's a very Christian concept, by the way, that you love your family, and then you love your neighbor, and then you love your community, and then you love your fellow citizens in your own country, and then after that, you can focus and prioritize the rest of the world. A lot of the far left has completely inverted that. They seem to hate the citizens of their own country and care more about people outside their own borders. That is no way to run a society. And I think the profound difference that Donald Trump brings to the leadership of this country is the simple concept, America first. It doesn't mean you hate anybody else. It means that you have leadership, and President Trump has been very clear about this, that puts the interests of American citizens first. In the same way that the British Prime Minister should care about Brits and the French should care about the French, we have an American president who cares primarily about Americans, and that's a very welcome change.
What is President Xi doing? What is Vladimir Putin
He's looking
doing?
after the Chinese. Putin is looking after the Russians. They're entitled to do that. Thank God we now have an American president who's looking after the citizens of his own country.
So one of the first comments I read on this video said, if your kid and your neighbor's kid were drowning in a river and you could only save one of them, which one would you choose to save? And then the person says, your answer proves J.D. Vance is right. It's just common sense. But from what I see today from a lot of Christians, isn't that what prayer's for? Wouldn't we just stare at them and pray? Isn't that what we do? Are they saying prayer isn't common sense? But I digress. Just because you would choose your kid doesn't make it biblical. It just means you prioritize your love for your kid over someone else's kid. But that doesn't justify what J.D. Vance and the president are trying to do, because we aren't staring at two drowning kids with the choice of saving one or the other. In fact, in this case, we threw one of the kids in the river and are yelling at them, figure that shit out. But having said all this, where does Donald Trump, sitting on Air Force One in front of a new map of the Gulf of America, talking like this about Gaza, factor into all this?
Back on Gaza, the White House press secretary told us last week that you're committed to rebuilding Gaza. Steve Witkoff said that process would take 10 to 15 years. Does your commitment to rebuilding Gaza extend beyond your time in office?
I'm committed to buying and owning Gaza. As far as us rebuilding it, we may give it to other states in the Middle East to build sections of it. Other people may do it through our auspices. But we're committed to owning it, taking it, and making sure that Hamas doesn't move back. There's nothing to move back into. The place is a demolition site. It'll be, the remainder will be demolished. Everything's demolished. I mean, you can't live in those buildings right now. They're very unsafe. But we'll make it into a very good site for future development by somebody. We'll let other countries develop parts of it. It'll be beautiful. People can come from all over the world and live there. But we're going to take care of the Palestinians. We're going to make sure they live beautifully and in harmony and in peace, and that they're not murdered. This has been the most dangerous site anywhere in the world to live.
We're going to buy and own Gaza? The fuck? Who? With my tax dollars? This is America first? Poor folks living paycheck to paycheck who went to MAGA rallies wearing MAGA hats. Is this what you meant when you were chanting, America first, America first? Come on. You want your tax dollars rebuilding Gaza and taking care of Palestinians, but not paying off student loan debt for people here in America? Okay. Also, how does buying Greenland and Canada factor into all this? Republicans are walking contradictions. Does J.D. Vance and Donald Trump even talk to each other? Absolutely no one thought it was a good idea to buy and own Gaza. No one. Now we have people pretending it's a good idea because they're in a cult and Donald Trump owns them. This administration is ass backwards. Listen, while you're here, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 100,000 subscribers, and I really do appreciate you guys. Period.
Don't want no enemies or ops. Envy in they heart, I tell them stop. Vacation on the yacht.